Hello, hello, hello. This is the It's Called Football, Not Soccer podcast. Thank you for joining us. This is Daniel Layne along with Mason Shuffield. Going to get into a little bit of a preview for the Premier League, go over kind of finishing positions, top scores, transfers, and anything like that. How's it going today over there for you, Mason?
Oh, it's going pretty well, man. Got off work this morning just in time to get some Premier League going. I'm excited about it.
I hear you there, brother. I hear you there. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. I'll let you go ahead and start things off with your top six prediction, and we can go from there.
Man, well, first of all, I've got City finishing first. I think they had a little bit of a down year, even despite the fact they finished so well last year. I think more so Liverpool had an outlier year. I think Liverpool fall back to earth a little bit. I got them finishing second. Behind them, I'm going to go with Manchester United finishing third. I think they've made a lot of good moves, and I know Manchester United fans are holding on. They really want to see Jadon Sancho, and especially if that happens, I have no doubt that they'll get a top three finish. Chelsea again, with bringing in people in, and I've loved what Lampard's done so far, so I've got them at fourth. As far as fifth goes, I like Arteta a lot. I think he's getting that team right. I was able to see that team this morning, and they stuck Gabriel in at the starting middle center back, and he scored a goal first match.
I was crushed. United didn't get him. He's a quality player, and I'm not one of these guys that starts slagging somebody off once my team didn't get him. He's a great center back, and I mean, he got a header in his debut. That's a little bit of luck on a corner. But, I mean, he'll be a great player for him all year, and I agree. They got a great center back, and you slot him in week one, get a goal and a clean sheet.
I mean, you can't argue when you get Willian first game with an assist and your brand new young center back with a heading.
Willian had two, yeah. I think they credited him with that shot. They got blocked at Lacazette finish too.
I don't know.
So, yeah, I mean, I agree. They're looking good.
And then lastly, sixth, I've got Leicester. They're just constantly knocking at the door. I don't see them not competing for the top positions, but I have them ultimately finishing below all those other squads.
Understood. Yeah, I'm actually – Leicester is one of my kind of non-Manchester United teams that I really like to follow. I unfortunately think they're due for a little bit of a fall-off this year. But I'll jump into my top six. Top four is the same as Mason's. Unfortunately, I would love for it to be a little different, but I'm not going to say it's different just for the point of arguing with him. I think, look, Pep's a great coach. As much as I hate to admit it, he's the best coach in Manchester. They're the best team in Manchester. It is what it is. Kevin De Bruyne's probably the best attacking mid on the planet right now. I think my boy Bruno is giving him a run for his money, and we'll see this season who the best attacking mid is. But Kevin De Bruyne, I think you're going to see a bounce back year from Kun Aguero. People sleep on him all the time when they mention the top strikers in the world. He's a guy that just scores gold. And T-Rex arm Raheem Sterling is going to score a bunch of goals and get assists. Whether or not we like him, Riyad Mahrez is going to put in a bunch of goals and assists. Mr. Icelandic model Phil Foden coming through. I just think they have too much. And as long as – listen, in my opinion, the only reason they didn't win last year is because Laporte got injured early and was early all season, and their back four was not solid. They have a pretty settled back four this year. I think it's their title to lose. Liverpool in second, I just think, it's hard to be hungry when you're on top for that long. They've not really made a lot of signings. A few of their guys are getting older. And the main reason I have Liverpool in second instead of winning the league is injuries. They've been extremely healthy the last couple seasons. They've not had multiple top players injured at the same time a single period over the last 2 years. And I think that they just won't be that lucky again.
They're due for it.
Yes, if you look at United over the past few seasons, we had Pogba and Martial and Rashford all out at the same time. You look at Arsenal, they had their entire defense out at the same time for parts of the last 2 seasons. Tottenham's had injuries with Harry Kane. A lot of these clubs have dealt with big injuries. Liverpool really haven't. They've had one guy at a time get hurt, but they've never really had, Salah and TAA both go down for 3 months, or Mane and Allison both go down for a while. Predictions are hard, or injuries are hard to predict, but I just think they're kind of due for a little bit of a fall down this year. I have United in third. To me, that's predicated upon us doing what I think we're going to do in the transfer window. This morning, I'm getting a lot of behind-the-scenes info that United have pulled ahead in the Thiago race from Bayern Munich. He was kind of favored to go to Liverpool, and all of a sudden this morning I'm hearing United are in the driver's seat in that deal. We'll see. It obviously hadn't happened yet. But I really liked the Van de Beek signing for United. I think he's going to help a lot. He's going to help a lot in that midfield. You know, they can now afford for Pogba or Bruno to have an injury and still have a world-class player. If they need to have more possession and go more attacking, they can play all three of them in the midfield together.
And hey, speaking of that, do you have Pogba staying now?
Yes, I do.
He was wanting to leave. I think he's been sold with this. He's there.
From what I've been told, he's already agreed to his new deal. They're just waiting for a good time to announce it. They had the Harry Maguire stuff come out. Then Pogba got COVID. Now they're trying to sign Sancho. What I've been told is it's already done.
Okay, fantastic.
That he's already agreed to it. They're just not announcing it yet because of timing. But yes, I think he's going to stay and sign an extension. And I think the best thing for Pogba is Bruno coming because, as you saw with France, Pogba's at his best when he doesn't have to be the man. When he can just be a facilitator and be one of the guys, he's world class. When you put the whole team on his shoulders, I don't know that he's built that way. And over the past few years,
he's the best complementary player I think you can have on a team, which is why he had so much success at Juventus.
Exactly, and with France. And that's why I think now that you look at United, you get in a Jadon Sancho around him, you have a Bruno Fernandes around him, Anthony Martial's putting in goals and buckets for France and for United. Greenwood's coming along. If Rashford can get back to healthy, I think Rashford's dip in form is because he wasn't healthy during the restart. He had a fractured back. Robin Van Persie came out and said he was never the same player after he had that injury. Rashford was supposed to be out 8 months. But because the season stopped and started back, he came back after like 5 months to play for the restart period. He didn't look good. He did not look good. I think he was injured. A few people inside the club think he's doing too much, charity work and social justice work. I don't think that's the case. I think the lad's just not healthy yet. But I think he will get healthy and continue to develop as a player. Look, I'm not going to sit here and defend Harry Maguire. I'm so tired of the drunk English culture and the way these guys who are making tens of millions of pounds aren't smart enough to realize you can't just go to a pub in Ibiza on holiday and not have people mess with you. It sounds like somebody, injected his sister with something and whatever. That's horrible. I'm sorry that happened. It wouldn't have happened had you not put yourself in that situation. You're rich enough. You're the captain of Manchester United. If you want to go on holiday, hire security, rent out an island, rent out a private club if you want to. Bring a handful of only famous soccer players up there. Once you start getting drunk and mixing with the general public, you're going to have City fans talking trash to you. You're going to have whoever, and things are going to pop off. He put himself in a bad situation, and then he tried to act like he did nothing wrong and he was just a victim and horribly misdone by the Greece judicial system. I don't think he should still be our captain anymore, to be honest with you. I think Bruno should. But I just wonder where his head's going to be at to start the season. So that's a concern. I do think we need to start signing a defender. I think we will. But I think if we get the couple of signings we need, I think United will finish in that third spot. If we don't get Sancho, don't get Thiago, don't get a couple others, I could easily see us finishing fourth or fifth. I think Chelsea in fourth. Listen, like you said, they've definitely won the offseason. They've had some tremendous signings: Chilwell, Thiago Silva, Havertz, Timo Werner. Timo Werner's a beast.
He's into it. He's going to lurk and get a couple of goals, but I think he is going to have the best second half of the season. He's not going to fit in immediately, but he's going to explode come January.
He is a beast, and when you add in the likes of Pulisic and Mason Mount and Tammy Abraham, they have a lot of young, talented guys. I think Thiago Silva is going to solidify that back four, bring a lot of experience, a lot of leadership. I would have loved for him to come to United and partner with Harry Maguire. I think Thiago Silva still has 2 years left at the top level. He started almost every game for a PSG team that played in the Champions League final. He's not washed up. He's a good player, and just because he went to another team, I'm not going to slag him off. I think
Only thing
Chilwell is
that goalkeeper, though, right?
I
They're
agree.
still hurt a little bit for a goal.
From what I've been told, they're still looking to sign one. We'll see. They've done a lot. But, people have to remember when they talk about Chelsea, financial fair play, spending too much money, whatever. Keep in mind they had a transfer ban for 2 seasons. They sold Eden Hazard and they sold Murata, and they didn't buy anybody. So Chelsea can spend $300 million this transfer window and not violate financial fair play because they haven't bought anybody for a few seasons. So, I do think they will get a keeper. I really do. I don't think they would have spent that much money and relied on Kepa. We'll see. We'll see. So 5th, Tottenham. We talked about this a bit before we started recording. I just think Jose will bring enough defensive solidity there that with their attack. And listen, everybody's going to talk about Harry Kane. I personally don't think Harry Kane is the best attacker on that team. I think Son is one of the most underrated players on the planet and is by far the best player on that team. If you were telling me I could take any player off of Tottenham today, 1,000% it's Son. I think, that front four of Son, Ali, Lucas Moura, and Kane, listen, those guys are going to score goals. They're going to score a lot of goals. And if Jose can solidify that defense, made a great signing in Doherty from Wolves. Outside of TAA, Doherty may be one of the best attacking wingbacks in England. They got Serge Aurier on the other side, who at the end of last season during the restart was getting assists left and right. I just think they've done enough to help their defense. They're good enough going forward. My big question with them is still Eric Dyer. I'm not sure where his head's at. I'm not sure how solid he's going to be this year. But I think they have enough other pieces that they will be back in that top 6. And I honestly think they'll challenge for the top 4 and be right there on the borderline of 4th and 5th.
I have no question that they'll be challenging for it at the very least. As we had talked about earlier, even when he was with Manchester United. Manchester United were not performing poorly.
We finished second. Won FA Cup, won Europa. We won some stuff while he was there with not a great team.
It's just not pretty soccer. It's not fun to watch.
Nope.
And that's the issue. So I think they'll be a dark horse for that reason. They're not going to think much of it. They're going to have ugly wins. They're going to have narrow escapes, and they could very well make it happen, though.
Yep. No, absolutely. And then 6th, look, I've been one of Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang's biggest fans since he was in Dortmund. I have 2 Dortmund jerseys up in my closet with his name on them. When Arsenal play, I wear my Dortmund Aubameyang jerseys because I can't bring myself to wear an Arsenal kit, but I love the player. I think he's one of the best 3 strikers on the planet and has been for the last 5 years. I think bringing Willian in to give him somebody to take the pressure off of him is only going to make him stronger. I'm wondering how Willian's going to play over the course of the season now that he has a contract and isn't playing for his pocketbook. We'll see. He tends to only play good when his contract's on the line. So we'll see how Willian plays. He had a good start. We'll see how he plays over the course of the season. But I really like Gabriel. I would have loved him to come to United. He's a very, very solid left-sided center back. He's good in the inner corners, as we saw this morning. And just so everybody knows, we're recording this before the Leeds-Liverpool game. So there's 2 games have already happened, the Arsenal game and the Southampton game. I don't think that changed either one of our predictions. But
certainly not.
I do think Gabriel is going to be a solidifying force in that defense. And I think that, they're not going to get a lot of clean sheets, but they're going to outscore a lot of people with that offense. And the main reason I have them in that top 6 instead of Leicester or Wolves, who are 2 teams I really, really like, I think Leicester is kind of due for a fallback. They've lost a few quality players over the last few seasons, Riyad Mahrez and N'Golo Kanté, a few others that they've not replaced since they won the title. Jamie Vardy's getting up there in age. I think they're one long-term Jamie Vardy injury away from finishing 10th, if I'm being totally honest.
That's very fair. I don't disagree with that at all.
Yeah, they're extremely reliant upon him for goal.
And it depends. Their restart, like a few teams, mine, Sheffield United, was hideous.
Yeah, it was.
And they never really regained traction.
No,
They
they did not.
escaped a few times. They had one or I think maybe one or two good games, but overall it was a horrendous restart. And so for them to actually finish sixth, like I had predicted, they are going to have to hit the ground running.
Yeah, absolutely. And just a little further than that, you mentioned one of the teams I was wanting to talk about, Sheffield United. I think they're going to have a fallback, and this goes back to why I have United in third that I didn't mention. Dean Henderson. That man was the best shot stopper in the Premier League last year, and
It's
he is no longer at Sheffield United and is now at Manchester United. And I think that's going to
on the
drop.
on the ticker, where it shows game previews at the bottom of your NBC. It's showing Sheffield United Wolves, and it kind of mentions like top goal scorer. Like it'll mention like one statistic, and for Sheffield United, it was like Henderson leading in saves or in clean sheets last year. And I'm like, he's not with us now. On that same note, the goalkeeper isn't everything. That defense is all still there and has been fortified since then.
Correct. One question I do have, what's going on with Lundstrom? He was super hot at the top of last season, really didn't seem to play a lot during the restart when they were playing so bad. Was he hurt? Is he just an older player that they have to manage his workload? What is that?
Couple things. We brought in Berga. First of all, Ollie Norwood facilitates at that center role.
Right.
Fleck was on the left, and Berga was essentially taking the right. Berga was a little bit ugly, but the kid's only 19 years old.
Right.
He has since I watched all our preseason games. He looks absolutely fantastic and ready to go. He's going to be really strong for Sheffield United all the way through the future. Lundstrom specifically got big-headed. This is a guy who grew with us, and he's a small-time player. And now suddenly he says, "Oh, I deserve the big money," and that's not how Wilder plays ball.
I just kind of wondered what was going on because you could tell he wasn't not playing because he wasn't good. He was playing good when he had played, and then all of a sudden it just seemed like he fell out of favor with the coach, and then was getting like 20 minutes, and he'd come on and get an assist or a goal, and then still wouldn't play in the next game. And so, for somebody who owned Lundstrom in fantasy last year, it was extremely frustrating for me. I'm sure as a fan of the team it was as well, but that was one that didn't really make sense to me down the stretch. But that does make, now that I have the behind the scenes, that's why I wanted to ask you, an actual fan of the team, about it. Because, it didn't make sense from the outside looking in how Lundstrom was really kind of their lead facilitator the first half of the season and playing fantastic and creating a lot, and then just kind of disappeared the second half of the season. But, the big soccer is 90% mental. It really is.
Yeah. And
so
that locker room is everything when it comes to
Wilder.
It is. None of those guys are all-stars.
Correct.
It's all a system, and it's if
and that's how you have to win when you don't have the budgets and you don't have the all-stars.
Exactly.
You have to have that team buying. No, absolutely. And along with that kind of brings me back to another point I wanted to hit on with United. We'll see how this plays out. It could be the best thing ever. It could be a nightmare having David De Gea and Dean Henderson both on the same team. That competition, I think Dean Henderson is mentally strong enough that it will be good for him.
He's young enough.
I worry about David De Gea. David De Gea's mental state was not great at the end of last season. He made some very, very costly, obvious blunders where he let goals in at the near post in Europa League and down the stretch in the Premier League. And Dean Henderson was the best shot stopper in England last year.
He does the very hard things well and botches the easy things.
That's the exactly. Yes.
And you're going to remember those botches more than anything.
Exactly.
I really think he gets way worse of a bad rap than he deserves. He is still – I have him as an elite status goalkeeper.
He is. I think that Dean and De Gea are two of the top three keepers in England right now, along with Alisson at Liverpool. Unfortunately, I don't know if it's good to have two of the top three keepers in England on the same team competing for the same spot. It could be great. It could raise both their levels, or they could both be sitting there thinking, oh, shit, as soon as I spill one, I'm getting yanked, and then play with that bit of nerviness. And the last thing you want is a jittery keeper. So, if it turns out well and they get the best out of both of them, it could be great because United's going to be in Champions League this year. We're going to have a lot of fixtures, FA Cup, other cups.
Plenty of opportunities.
Yes, there's going to be enough games that they'll both be able to play. It's just, does that work out right to where they push each other and not, make them kind of nervy. So that's my one concern for United, but it's a good problem to have. Listen, My biggest problem with United is for too long, and like you hear a lot of United players right now, why are we signing Sancho? It's going to stifle Greenwood's delivery. You don't hear Bayern Munich saying that. You don't hear PSG saying that. You don't hear Barcelona saying that. You don't hear City and Liverpool saying that. They sign good players, and the best player each week plays. It's really that simple. And if you don't have that competition for spots in your squads, you end up with a lot of people who, get the big head and feel like they deserve the spot. And then, if you have to sub them off to rest them or anything like that, you end up with attitude issues. I just think, the depth that we need.
Policies as well.
Yes. Donny Van de Beek. People are like, why'd we sign Van de Beek? We have Pogba and Bruno. Well, yeah, but we can't play Pogba and Bruno every week. Some weeks we may need three midfielders, three creative midfielders instead of having a holder. And, look, there's some games that we could easily play Matic in the hole and then play Van de Beek on the right, Pogba on the left, and Bruno's an attacking mid. It gives us squad flexibility we didn't have last year. Yes, last year we had to play either the stupid 3/5 at the back they tried to do against Chelsea or the typical 4-2-3-1 or 4-3-3. We really didn't have much flexibility. Mo Salah starts his scoring tally early. Are you watching this?
Oh my goodness, I'm not.
It just kicked on, and Salah already scored a goal. It literally just started, and he's already scored a goal.
All right, well, hot start for Leeds, I suppose.
Well, and I was going back and forth on my fantasy Premier League team between Salah and Mane, and I knew I should have gone with Salah because he's on penalties, and of course he scores a penalty right from the start. Mane's been good for me in years past, so I went with him. Plus, me and my son love singing "A Little Mane, Mane," anytime he scores. So that was another reason to keep him. See who earned the penalty. Oh, Salah earned the penalty with a shot that got handballed. So depending on how they score that in fantasy, he might get a goal and an assist. All right. So that's a penalty goal, 1-0 for Liverpool over Leeds in the 5th minute. No surprise there. I expect a few more to come in.
Yeah, I mean, I'm cheering for the best for Leeds, and obviously that's a rival of Sheffield. But I wish him the best. I know Beasley.
I want him to stay up.
Yes.
Yeah, I at least want him to stay up.
Beasley doesn't have the best rap, but I'll tell you, 2 seasons ago when they were in the championship and they were competing for one of those top spots, at the end of the season they had a goal scored for them that should not have counted. It was reviewed, it still counted, and he told his team to walk in a goal against Villa to tie it up.
Yes, I remember that. Character means a lot to me. I'll say this. I'm one of the few people, one time I got fouled out at Burns Park on a BS penalty while one of my high school friends, Rick Wilson, and the other team was throwing a fit, yelling at the ref. I told Rick, I was like, listen, don't worry about it. I just went and set it on the ground, kicked it right to the sidelines. It was like, I don't want to score that way. Y'all have it. We ended up drawing that game. We would have won if I'd have taken the penalty. But, like you said, sometimes doing the right thing matters more than just winning a game.
Massive respect for it.
Integrity is not cheap. For some people give it away in a heartbeat, and it's easy to lose and it's hard to get back. So I have a ton of respect for the man as well, and I hope they stay up. I really do. I think they're going to have a rough day today playing Liverpool their first game.
But hey, baptized by fire is what I say.
Exactly.
Let's go ahead and get a feel for it. This is the best of the best from last year, and
absolutely, it's only going to get better from here.
Exactly.
It's only going to get better for him from here. All right, so that's kind of our top 6. We'll go into top score now. You went first on top 6. I'll kick this one off. This is one I'm really, really torn on. And I have a bit of a pick that may surprise some people, but if the man stays healthy all year, my money's on Danny Ings at Southampton.
Wow.
And I know a lot of people are not. I know a lot of people are not predicting that. The man scores a lot of goals. Southampton got stronger. They made a couple of signings. They didn't have a great start this morning against Palace, but I just think that he will get enough service, and they will rely upon him so much. They also have a pretty easy start to their schedule, so I think he'll be able to get in good form early in the season, carry over that momentum from last year, and keep going. If it's not Danny Ings, I would have to say you're looking at an another top season from Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang at Arsenal.
That's exactly who I've got as my top scorer. We mentioned it earlier. They've brought in pieces that are going to take some pressure off of him. I think Arteta's opened up that game. They know how to move the ball. That Community Shield game, I mean, just watching them invite that defense in or their attack into their defense and then just counterattack on them. And then they had, I think it was like 2 or 3 defenders while Aubameyang just streaked down the side. I mean, it looked like they were playing middle schoolers right then. They made it look so easy just by simple tactics and movement of the ball. And then to couple that with a dominant player like Aubameyang, who's a goal scorer, I have no doubt that he's going to take the boot this year.
Well, and he's not just a goal scorer. He's a striker who scores awesome goals, and he's also a striker that scores dirty, easy goals. And a lot of strikers don't do both. They're either Wilf Zaha at Palace, where they get highlight reel goals, but they can't make the simple tap in or score a header, or they're kind of the scrappy guy in the box, but they don't have the fantastic launch. I mean, he's got it all. That volley this morning.
Side net, upper,
whoever they were playing, it was against Fulham, was just, he makes those look easy, and anybody who's played striker knows they are not. I just think his quality and the fact that I don't think Arsenal's defense is going to be extremely strong against some of the top teams. I think they're going to have to outscore some teams, and they're going to play a pretty wide open, flowing football. That's why I don't have somebody like Jamie Vardy up there. For one, I already mentioned I think he's getting older and could have injuries. But for two, they play a more structured defensive game. Same thing with Harry Kane at Tottenham under Jose Mourinho. There's a few of these top scorers that are in different spots that, you would normally have Harry Kane up there. I think Son's the better striker on the team, and under Jose's system, I don't know that Kane's going to score as many goals as he used to. I think if you add into that, some of the question marks around guys like Eric Dyer and Dele Alli and some of their midfield, I do think they will do enough to finish top 6. I'm not sure they're going to be strong enough for Kane to get the golden boot or even really be in that race at the end of the season like he has been in years past. There's, of course, a couple guys at Liverpool that are probably pretty pissed we hadn't mentioned their name, and Mo Salah and Sadio Mane, who are always going to score a lot of goals. And the fact that we haven't mentioned them until now is insane because they're 2 of the best strikers on the planet. But it's,
there's 2 of them on the same team.
There are 2 of them. They will split up a lot of those stats. Liverpool also leads with a goal. Even it up.
You may be a hair ahead of me.
Wow, you watch it on TV or on a streaming?
I'm all streaming, man. I do not have.
So I'm at 11. Yeah, I'm at 11:27.
Okay, I'm sitting at 10:50 right now.
Yeah, it's about to come on. I think, look, Liverpool's defense, obviously they just gave all the leads, but I think Liverpool's defense is solid, and their keeper is solid, that they are going to, not necessarily have to have as many 3, 4, 5 goal games as they've had in years past. I think they'll both have a lot of goals. I just don't think either one of them will be leading the league. Woo! Virgil van Dijk and TAA both made to look bad.
Yeah, those 2 dominant defenders kind of got burned a little bit there, didn't they?
I know. A couple of guys that are both on my fantasy team just got left on the floor by a Leeds player. That's always encouraging.
That touch around TAA was phenomenal.
That was nice. Listen, Mane and Salah are going to get their goals, and they'll be up there. Kun Aguero stays healthy for a season. Don't forget about him. Raheem Sterling is going to put in a ton of goals like he has the past few years. Golden Boot, I got Ings, you got Aubameyang, and listen, I would not be surprised one bit if it was Aubameyang. One thing we didn't have on the list, but since I kind of mentioned De Bruyne a second ago, leading assist man. I'll let you start with this. For you, I agree. I'm going with Bruno Fernandes. I just think the man had more assists than Kevin De Bruyne during the restart. I think over the course of a season, listen, Kevin De Bruyne gets rested. I had him in fantasy last year. Pep rotates his squad because he has depth. Even though United signed Donny van de Beek, any Premier League game that matters, Bruno Fernandes will be on the pitch. You can't say that about Kevin De Bruyne at Man City. He gets rested when they have Champions League games. He gets rested
I disagree with that. I think Bruno will absolutely contribute in massive ways. I mean, I could see it happening. I'm not going to say it won't. It's a very realistic possibility. Yeah. But I can't not do De Bruyne. He's
I understand. And listen, I have the man as on my as one of my top fantasy players that I'm counting on this year as well. So listen, you're never going to go wrong with De Bruyne. He's going to score goals. He's going to assist goals. I just think this season, I have a feeling that Bruno Fernandes is really going to show his class, and people are going to say, listen, as good as he was, we did not see his best. I watched him play a lot when he was in Portugal, and he's still getting comfortable in the Premier League and figuring things out. As good as he's been, he's not shown his best yet. And
that's fair.
For anybody that's playing, yes, I mean, he's a smaller Portuguese player, and he's used to the Portuguese league. The Premier League is extremely more physical. He has struggled with that physicality just a little bit at times. But I think once he gets used to that, the way fouls are called differently in the Premier League versus Portugal, I think once he gets a few of those things figured out and he gets a more solid rapport with the likes of Pogba and Martial and Rashford and Jadon Sancho if he comes, and that's one thing I will say. If we don't bring in Sancho, I probably would go with De Bruyne as the top assist man. Everything I've been told, and we'll get transfers in a second, is that Jadon Sancho is coming to United. It's basically a done deal. This is going to sound crazy. We'll go over this when we get to transfers. If you follow United, all their big money transfers happen at the end of the window. Harry Maguire, Paul Pogba, season after Bruno Fernandes in the winter session. We were going to get him in the summer, didn't get him in the summer. We're going to get him in the winter session. It came all the way down to the end of the winter session. Then we finally got him after we dropped points to Burnley, at the start of January, which is a game I don't think we would have lost had we had Bruno. However,
they're above solid team.
They're a good team. And what I've been told, and this is, listen, we're a club run by Ed Woodward, accountant in chief, so that's the only reason this makes sense. But the reason they do this is because they're going to sign about £5 to £6 million, not paying Jadon Sancho for 6 weeks. So you're talking about $200 to $250,000 a week for 6 weeks that they're not having to pay him. Then you're talking about the interest on £100 million that they're earning for 6 weeks, right? So between the two of those things, you're talking about, 4, 5, £6 million in savings. All the while, they feel like, listen, the worst thing we're going to do is run this down to the wire and then pay the fee we know we can pay and get the player, right? Maybe if we drag this out long enough and Jadon Sancho gets unsettled, they drop their price a little bit, right? So they do this time after time again. They run all these deals down to the wire and then they get them done. I don't like it. I think it's insane to worry about £4 or £5 million when you're spending £120 million on a player like Jadon Sancho. Get him in early, get him through the quarantine, make sure he's ready to start the season, get him used to the players. That's what you do if you're running your club like a football club. Manchester United is run like a business. It doesn't make much sense, but if you look at Bruno, you look at Pogba, you look at Harry Maguire, it happens every time we make a big money sign.
There's not many clubs that you can buy stock in. I own $50 of stock in Manchester United.
Yeah, so do I.
Very much a business.
It is. And that's why another reason I think the Sancho deal will happen is because, and some people misconstrue this, the jersey sale matters a lot to United. They will be renegotiating that Adidas contract or whoever does their next one the next couple of years. The more jerseys they sell, the more money they get on that next endorsement, right? So, they've already been paid on this one by Adidas. So, no, they don't get, a portion of each Jadon Sancho jersey. But the more jerseys they sell over the next 12 months, the more they're going to get on their next contract. And so, again, our club is run by an accountant like a business. I wish it wasn't, but it is. So that's why I've been told all these deals always drag out. Say what?
It has its upsides, as you just pointed out. I mean, there are reasons for what they're doing. It may not be ideal from a fan base, but I can't say it's inefficient.
Listen, I can't say. Listen, and if over the last handful of seasons our last window was fantastic. Harry Maguire. Listen, I don't think he's worth the money we paid for him, but I think we had to pay that much money to get him, and I think he will be a good player. We've not gotten anything out of him in the air on crosses, on headers. I think that slab head's going to start knocking in some goals this year, assuming he puts this Greece business behind him. Aaron Wan-Bissaka we signed last year is the best defensive wingback on the planet for me. I said that when he was at Palace the season before. Two seasons in a row, he's had the most tackles in the Premier League. He does need to work on his crossing game going forward. I'm not a delusional United fan, but as far as making tackles and stopping people defensively, it doesn't get much better than Aaron Wan-Bissaka on that wing. Luke Shaw played very well, but I just think transfer-wise, United has done enough to put Bruno in a position to get enough assists to be the leading man. We'll see, how that goes. I do think they've made some moves that are going to help them, but it's not fantasy Premier League; it's actual footy. So we'll see how it goes on the field. Golden Glove. This is going to be an interesting one. I will let you go ahead and start this one because honestly, I'm still making my mind up.
Well, I'm a goalkeeper guy. I'm pretty passionate about them. I've started the keeper wars. I've coached it. I mean, it's my bread and butter, man. And it breaks my heart. Here's my background currently that I'm gonna have to change. We got Dean Henderson there, and man, I think I can't not root for the guy. I've got Dean beating De Gea. I've got him winning Golden Glove. The kid is the future of England. I love watching him, and I guess it's as much of a hope as it is a prediction that he takes it, and especially with as well as I think Manchester United are going to do, I'm absolutely thrilled for it. Oh, Liverpool scored again.
I was waiting for you to see it. I didn't want to say it.
I can see you eyeing it in the corner.
Van Dijk redeems himself on my fantasy team. Oh, why is Andy Robertson hitting the cross and not TAA? Anyway, look, I think Van Dijk's going to score a handful of these headed in goals this year. That's why I have him in my fantasy team. They get a lot of corners and they score a lot of corners.
That keeper should have saved that.
I'm not going to argue with you there.
I'm not going to say that was an easy save, but it was right to him, and he fell backwards into the goal.
Leeds almost got one right back. All right, so top keeper, you have Dean Henderson. Listen, I hope you're right. I hope you are right. I would love nothing more than for you to be right. And honestly, listen, I was not opposed to United selling David De Gea in the offseason, not because I think he's washed up, not because I think he's past his prime, just because I think we could have used that money elsewhere, and Dean Henderson is just as good. And I don't know that the two of them having two number ones on the same team, I'm not sure. We'll see how it works out. It could be good, it could not. But I wouldn't have minded us selling De Gea and using that money to buy some. But anyways, listen, my Golden Glove, I am going to go with my man who, you mentioned the England keeper of the future. There's another man that's in that conversation who had a good season last year, Mr. Pope.
Man, I'm telling you, England's got a good problem right now.
They do. For some reason, they're playing their worst keeper in Jordan Pickford. But
Pickford's not bad.
He's not bad. He's not bad. It's just that Pope and Dean are two of the top five hottest keepers in Europe right now. Listen, the only question with Pope is the team around him good enough to keep enough clean sheets? And how much pressure is he going to have to stand up to versus somebody like Dean Henderson at United or Alisson at Liverpool or some of these other guys. So we'll see, but that's the man between the sticks on my fantasy team, and that's the guy I'm picking.
That's who you're going with.
Yep, that is who I'm going with.
I went with Ramsdale myself, hoping that he is.
That's who I had on there at first. I just wasn't sure. I just want to see how much of Sheffield's elite defense last year was Dean Henderson and how much was the system. I think it was a bit of both. And I
Absolutely.
don't think Ramsdale's as good as Dean. We'll see how big a
He's
difference
not.
there is in performance between the two. But I was like you. I originally had Ramsdale and then decided to go with Pope instead. And I also have the Southampton keeper, McCarthy. So I have McCarthy and Pope, and I'll kind of switch it out. All right. So that's the keeper. What's the next thing we have here? Surprise team of the season. So who is your dark horse surprise team this year?
I don't know if you can classify him as a dark horse, but since Ancelotti took over, I've got Everton surprising everybody. They brought in James. They've still got Pickford. Moise Kean was the future of Juventus. He is the future of Italy, and they traded him for a pack of gum. Like,
Yeah.
I think that team is absolutely fantastic. Let's not forget about Iwobi, who I was happy to dog while he was at Arsenal. He infuriated me in the final third, but in typical Arsenal fashion, they waited right until he was like emerging as something real, and they were like, "Let's get rid of him."
Right.
I mean, it was very frustrating to watch, but hey, all power to Everton to make use of that. They've got young talent. They've got Ancelotti, who they started horribly. Ancelotti took over and they surged, and I think that's only going to continue, especially with the addition of James.
Listen, I totally agree. That was honestly the team I was going to go with. But since you went with them, I will go with another team. I think Newcastle's going to surprise some people.
Man,
I think
it's a personal thing. They destroy Sheffield every time we play.
I hear you, man.
Specifically, what's their coach's name? I can't remember who runs it. He destroys Chris Wilder. Every time they've played, he just dominates Chris Wilder. I don't get it. I don't know it if it's a little bit of luck, but as a Sheffield United fan, I'm tired of it.
Is it Steve Bruce? Who is it? That's who's popping up on that.
I think that's it.
Is it? Yeah, it is. It is Steve Bruce. Yeah, listen, I think at the end of last season, that they sorry, I got something with it. It's not COVID, guys. I had it in March. Don't worry. So, listen, I think they have some phenomenal players. I think the main reason I really like them, they made a couple of very quiet signings late in the window that I think are going to make a huge difference for them. Callum Wilson and Ryan Fraser. They were fantastic at Bournemouth. They both had some injuries last year, and honestly, had they been healthy, I think things would have turned out different with the relegation battle. I think, Saint Maximin or Maximus or whatever his name, I call him Maximus Decimus Meridius, commander of the Legions of the North, but he's fantastic.
He's wonderful.
You add Callum Wilson up there as a striker. You put Ryan Fraser on the wing, bombing in crosses. I think they're going to be good enough to surprise some people. Am I saying they're going to finish top 4? Of course not. Do I think they could possibly get up to around 10th? I think they have some players and could do some things that might surprise people. My team, I was going to say Everton. I didn't want to say the same thing Mason did since we also had the same top 4. So I'll go with Newcastle
Impressive.
on that one.
Truly impressive.
Sometimes you got to adapt on the fly. All right, so surprise team. So now we'll kind of go into the transfer market. Listen, I had, as Mason just mentioned, Everton did a phenomenal job. I had Chelsea winning the transfer market. I think Everton is a close second behind them. All that being said, if Manchester United wow, sorry, you'll see that in just a second. Almost an own goal.
I'm just watching Beasley analyze while you scream right now. It's just him just staring at the play.
You'll see it in just a second. There was almost a horrible own goal. But listen, I think Chelsea made some phenomenal signings. Thiago Silva, I think, still has a lot of top-level football left in him. He's a phenomenal leader, a phenomenal center back. Chilwell's good going forward. He's not as solid defensively as some wing backs, but he's a good addition. Timo Werner's going to score buckets of goals. Havertz's an amazing player. You talk about Pulisic being another season better, Mason Mount being another season better. They have a lot of tools. Same question is still, will they bring in a keeper before the window closes? The other team that I kind of have a dark horse as the team that could end up winning the window are my boys Manchester United. If they end up pulling off this Thiago deal, which I'm hearing they're now in the driver's seat on, he was headed to Liverpool. Everybody was ready to put him in a Liverpool kit. All of a sudden this morning I'm hearing United are back in the driver's seat in that deal. If we end up pulling off Thiago and Sancho and get a defender on top of Donny van der Beek, listen, I think that puts United's transfer window right up there with anybody's. It's hard to say because it hasn't happened yet. It's all speculation at this point. But based on where we're at today, United's only signed Donny van der Beek, so I would not even put them in the top 5 of the transfer window. But to me, it's pretty clear cut. Chelsea had the best window, and everybody else is quite a bit behind them at this point. What do you think about it, Mason?
Well, I mean, I've got to continue to go with. Ooh, that was a nice Meg. I know I'm well behind you.
Oh yeah,
That's
you're good.
back. That was gorgeous. Was that TAA again?
Yes.
Oh my gosh. I think he's on my fantasy squad too. I forgot who I put on there.
He's on mine. He is on mine. Hey,
wrecked.
I'm pausing my game at 29:06. You tell me when you get to 29:06, and I'll hit play. But yeah, I do think Chelsea had by far the best window.
There's no question that. I mean, at this point, they're continuing. I mean, it's just a torrid. Everything Lampard has done, bringing in new people, has been absolutely fantastic. I've been nothing but impressed with him as a coach. I think they win the transfer window, and 29:06. I'm still going to have to – I mean, I know I'm a little biased, but I got to mention my guy Chris Wilder. We actually spent a little money getting Ramsdale. Yep. And the people we've brought in to compete for some of these left and right back positions, which we needed massively. George Baldock, our right back, played every single minute of the Premier League last year. Now, yes, I hope he does it again.
Played well.
He's very good, but God forbid he gets hurt. Mm-hmm. And once we hit that restart with our center backs, when there was a game when O'Connell was hurt, or he was hurt for like 3 weeks, and Egan got a red. And I mean, we pretty much ran the same squad, and so 2 of our 3 center backs were then out.
Did you see it? Your boy Leeds are making this a contest. It ain't helping my fantasy team with Van Dijk and TAA, but it's hella fun to watch.
I threw a buck on Leeds to win it with 1,200 to 1 odds.
Hey. Listen,
I'll take it, man. I'm a big gambler. I'll throw a buck on that.
Listen, they are giving Liverpool everything they want, and listen, it's our guys. It's TAA and Van Dijk again.
Wow. I think both of us had them falling back to earth, but this is not a good start.
This is not expected. No, last season it was a 4-1 drumming in Norwich to start the season, and I think Norwich didn't score until the game was out of hand. This season, this is a different story. This is every bit of a game that's going to come down to the wire.
Yeah.
For anybody who's listening to this later, it's 2-2 in the 30th minute of this Liverpool Leeds game, and we're both a little. Listen, that's why we didn't mind going ahead and doing this while this Liverpool Leeds game was getting started. We thought the beginning of this game would be a little slow. Maybe Liverpool would get a couple goals and it'd be finished
early. Boring real quick, but
this is going to be a fun one. Yeah, this is going to be a fun one. So back to the transfers. So you obviously had Chelsea winning. Who'd you? I mean, I guess Everton is who you had in second, since you had them as your surprise team.
Yeah. I mean, they've just continued to do well as far as bringing people in, and that includes back to the manager before Ancelotti. They've got a lot of young talent. I think they're putting the right pieces in place to make something happen. Where was Ancelotti before? Was he Napoli?
He was somewhere in Italy, I think so. Yeah.
And he did below average, and it's so. Italy's a hard market. You've got Juventus, and then it drops off. But I'm telling you, if you want to get into another league, this may be the year. AC Milan is getting highly competitive. Inter with Conte is highly competitive.
Inter Milan looked good. United made them very good last year. I mean, they were, it was so crazy because I turned on Inter Milan, and it's like, Ashley Young passes to Alexis Sanchez, who passes to Lukaku for a goal. I'm like, why couldn't these clowns do this at United?
Tell you why. It's because you had Jose Mourinho as the
You're
man.
right on that.
With the proper manager in place, they can make it
What
happen.
just happened? Did that go in? I think that went in.
I see.
Yeah, they're congratulating Salah for a goal. God dang it! I know I should have had him over Mane. It's going to cost me big. Yeah, I'm pretty sure Salah just scored a goal.
Beasley's checking his watch. I don't know if something – they seem to be questioning everything that just happened.
It looked a little funny.
I'm only seeing the confused and the celebrations.
So it's a free kick. Robertson takes. Defender heads it. Salah volleys it right into the net. What's the question?
I don't know. They look just perplexed. Maybe they weren't expecting the play to start. Maybe – I don't know.
Are they saying it's a foul on Van Dijk or something? I don't know what they're complaining about. I don't see anything wrong with this. A hell of a strike from Salah on a half volley with his left foot to the corner.
Can't be better.
Whew, that man is
And we're
good.
back. It's 3-2.
3-2. This game, I mean, listen, 5 goals in the first 33 minutes. It's definitely not boring.
No doubt.
So anybody else that stood out to you in the transfer window? Obviously, Everton and Chelsea are kind of the big winners. I know they're signing that you really kind of liked, or anybody that stood out to you?
I've still got to mention Sheffield United bringing in Ramsdale. They brought in a lot of competition at left and right back. Chris Wilder was trying to get Matty Cash, center mid, and Anthony Robinson, who's actually an American. And Villa, in classic Villa fashion, wants every single player that we pursue. Chris Wilder pulls in the reins, lets him pursue those guys, and then he signs 2 players that are just as good for less than half of the price.
Hey, why pay scouts when you can just pay attention to what somebody else's scouts are doing?
Yeah, no kidding. I heard they're also taking a bid on Bramall Lane as well. They're just going to go ahead and take the stadium from us. And then let's see who else. Oh, the big one, and I'll mention this for shout out to Rob Leacock for West Brom making it in. Callum Robinson, who was on loan with them from Sheffield last year, was integral in part of their promotion. The kid was absolutely fantastic. Callum played in a few of our preseason games, looked very good. I was hoping we were going to keep him. He was part of a trade to get this kid, Ollie Burke, who 3 years ago was one of the most touted young players there was. I think he's 24, 25 now. Could be slightly off on that. But he's Wilder spoke to that, said Callum is an overall rounded player. He can do everything well. He said, but that's not what I'm looking for. And that goes back to what Wilder does with his system. He says, I want raw speed and raw power. And that's what Ollie Burke provides. So we'll see how he fits in with that striker by committee. I mean, we've got Billy Sharp, who is the leading English goal scorer right now. In all of England, he has the most goals. Didsey, David McGoldrick, Ollie McBurney, and then Lys Mousset. So there's a lot of competition. I think you're going to see Sheffield do a lot of things.
Mousset started the season hot last year. Did he get hurt or something? Because he kind of tailed off for a while there. What happened?
He was real hot, right? We started playing him. Callum started a few games for us and subbed on a few times. We ended up loaning him out. But Lys Mousset, I think it was his first 4 or 5 games, he was averaging either a goal or an assist, contributing to a goal every 45 minutes.
I had him in my Premier League team, and honestly, I just had him in there because he was a cheap option at forward, and I needed a cheap option at forward. And then he starts scoring goals and assists, so I started playing.
Anyone listening for fantasy tips, if you're looking for a cheap option, look no further than Sheffield United. Any one of those guys can emerge at any time. If you've got room and you just need someone who's affordable to sit on your bench and say, hey, maybe something will happen, take a look at some Sheffield United guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And listen, I'll kind of go over while we're talking about it, kind of go over fantasy. I'll kind of run through some of the guys I went with. And obviously United and City don't play the first week, and neither do their opponents in Villa and somebody else. So a handful of guys I originally had in my squad until I realized they didn't have a game the first week. Bruno Fernandes, Anthony Martial, Jack Grealish, Kevin De Bruyne. Handful of guys that I would have in this roster, but because they didn't have a game the first week, ended up not being in my roster.
Fair enough.
My back three for the whole season is probably going to be Van Dijk, TAA, and Doherty. at Tottenham. I actually had picked him up when he was still at Wolves, but I think he's going to be even more valuable at Tottenham. My midfield, I have Sadio Mane. I kind of wished I'd have gone Marcelo. I don't plan on keeping him. He's going to be replaced with Bruno Fernandes this week. Adama Traore at Wolves, just an absolute beast, can fly down that wing and get you goals or assists. St. Maximin, who I mentioned earlier at Newcastle, was the hottest player in the restart last season, and I think he's going to carry some of that form in. And then I had Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang as my captain. He got me a nice goal in the first game. My front line, Mitrovic, who didn't start today. I may end up dropping Mitrovic. For some reason, he didn't start today. The only reason I picked him up because I expected him to start every game. Yeah.
Commentators were talking about it too. Like, why in the world is he not playing today? Maybe there's a small lingering injury that they didn't mention. Maybe they just had another guy who they thought was in better form. It could be something as simple as that. I'm not going to abandon on him doing well just yet.
And that's one of the things of fantasy, and like I mentioned earlier about Kevin De Bruyne and why I kind of think Bruno may end up with more assists, is squad rotation. A lot of times I'll look for guys like Jack Grealish at Villa, or some of these guys like their squads just can't afford to rest them, so they always play. Those are guys that carry a lot of value in fantasy for that reason. And I thought Mitrovic was going to be one of those guys. I mean, I think he's by far their best player. I can't imagine that somebody else gives them a better option up front. It has to be injury related or something. But so I had, Mitrovic up top, Danny Ings, and then Callum Wilson, who I mentioned earlier. Like I said a minute ago, I'll end up with Anthony Martial, Kevin De Bruyne, and Bruno Fernandes in this lineup once they have games next week. But that's kind of my starting lineup. Some guys I have on the bench. Mitchell, the defender at Palace, got me 6 points from my bench today. Tyreek Mitchell, he's only he's a 4.0 million option, so he's cheap and is going to get you points as a starting wingback. Vinigre at Wolves, he's going to step into Doherty's role most likely and get a lot of play on that wing for them. He's only 4.5. And then Stevens in midfield from Brighton is only 4.5, and he'll start every game. So those are a few of the cheaper options, that are gonna not take up a lot of points, but they'll be guys that score that can fill in if your guys have a tough matchup, get hurt, or somebody doesn't play and they have to come in from the bench. So that's how my fantasy team's kind of looking at this point. What you got on your end, Mason?
Well, I actually lied to you earlier when I said I had Ramsdale. I forgot. I went a little too strong on the Sheffield players, and it said, hey,
you can't have –
Well, and the funny thing is, one of them that I had was Callum Robinson, who has since gone to West Brom.
Right.
So I would have been able to –
So now you could have done it, yeah.
Yeah, I looked at it once and put it down, but I've got Pickford and Lloris as my keepers. Easy rotate out. I think Everton's going to do well, so I said Pickford's going to do well. Yeah. Defensive line, I got Egan and Basham, both my Blades guys. They did well last year. So,
yep.
I got TAA, and I took Tierney from Arsenal. I think that kid is phenomenal. It's so crazy to me how small he is and how much space he can hold. He knows what he's doing back there. Here you're going to hear a few. We got some of the same going here. De Bruyne, Grealish, Traore. And I got Xhaka from Arsenal. That's, again, just going with I think Arteta's doing right with that team, and Xhaka's in such a
he's a pretty low-priced option too, right? He's like 5 or 5.5 or something like that, yeah.
And I think he's going to get those touches for a cheap amount. Up top, I got Martial and Timo Werner.
Mm-hmm.
I went with a couple more Man City guys on my bench. I got Ake, who I just think he's going to get some reps.
Yeah.
And Phil Foden, I think both of them will get going. Yeah. And then, as I mentioned earlier, Callum Robinson. But lots of my guys out this week.
Yeah, and listen, my squad looked a lot different when I originally put it together and then realized United and City weren't playing the first week. Obviously, big United fan here, and I don't have any United players in my lineup at this point. But I just didn't feel like at first I did, I had my bench, all three of my bench players didn't have games. It was De Bruyne, Bruno, and Martial. But I was like, man, I just don't know if I can leave that many points on the bench in this first week and kind of start off behind. So I went ahead and picked up some other guys that have games. I plan on dropping Mane. I plan on dropping, probably Mitrovic now that it looks like he's not going to start every game. But I will have Bruno Fernandes and Anthony Martial in my team for the vast majority of the season. Martial really has come around. Ole has put his faith in him as the striker, and listen, he's setting up and scoring goals for France as well. So I think he's due for a big year. And look, when it comes to fantasy, you want guys that can score you points multiple ways. Everybody loves to give me shit as a United fan about how many penalties we get. They count in fantasy. They count. Bruno Fernandes is going to put them in the net, and Anthony Martial is going to get an assist every time he earns a penalty, and Bruno Fernandes puts it in the net.
So, end of the day, goal.
They count. And that's what I'll end up with before the season's over, with a more United and City heavy team. They just didn't have a game week 1, so I ended up taking some of those guys out. And that's another thing with fantasy. Some managers really don't like to make multiple transfers in the week and take that 4-point penalty. I kind of feel like as the season goes on, it's worth it to take a few of those penalties throughout the season if you need to change. Often in fantasy, you can't improve your team just changing one player, right? You have to you replace this player with somebody 2 points cheaper, and then replace this player with somebody 2 points more expensive. And so a lot of
into it.
Yes, and so what I'll do a lot of times is I almost always only make 2 transfers at a time. I very rarely make 1 transfer in a game week. If I'm only going to make 1 transfer, I'll wait till the next week and do 2 at the same time in general. This first week, I will spend the 4 points and make 2 transfers and bring Bruno and Martial back into my team for next week. But, you don't – a lot of folks just kind of like to leave their team the same throughout the whole season. And it's nice if you pick good enough to where you can do that. But players go in and out of form, injuries happen. You look at the run of fixtures teams have upcoming. There was a few players that I really liked. Souček at West Ham. He was super hot down the stretch last year. He's only 5.0 pounds to have him on your fantasy team, but they have a very tough stretch of games to start the season. He was somebody that was originally in my roster. I replaced him with St. Maximin from Newcastle. Newcastle starts off with a fairly easy schedule. So just some of those things to look at when you're picking out your lineups for FPL. Anybody that hasn't joined our local Premier League league, feel free to hop in there. You're obviously going to be.
It's listed in the announcements if you go to the Premier League Central Arkansas page.
Yep, and we'll put it down in the comment. We'll put a link in the comments when we post this video up at for anybody who wants to join. It's just called Premier League Central Arkansas. We're up to about 20 folks in it now, so it should be a nice, fun, competitive league. It really doesn't hurt you that much to just miss the first week. Anybody who's not in yet can go ahead and sign in and join in and play along with us. But listen, this is obviously the first time we've done this. We had a few guys who, talked about, wanting to have some kind of podcast or YouTube channel going on. The plan is that we'll kind of do this as a both YouTube channel and podcast going forward. We want to have multiple guys who are members of the, Facebook group to hop in and join us. We kind of did this one ad lib at the last minute, to go ahead and get a prediction show in. But we'll generally have 3 or 4 guys on here. Have guys who are members of, our Facebook page and who want to come on. Obviously, I'm a United fan. Mason's a Sheffield fan. We want fans of other teams, from Chelsea fans, Arsenal fans, Tottenham fans, City fans, Liverpool fans, whoever. If you want to hop on with us for our week 1 recap, which we'll probably do on Tuesday, just let us know, and we'll actually schedule that one out where we can have a 3rd or a 4th person on here. And who was it that you said had mentioned something on Facebook, Mason?
Todd Weber has been he's been wanting to get a podcast going.
Yeah. So, Todd, I think another guy may have mentioned something as well.
Don't quote me on this. If I'm wrong, I'm going to be in trouble, but I think he's a Spurs fan.
Okay, yeah, that'd be great.
We get some Tottenham perspective from
Yeah,
him.
I'd like to have a fan of a London club on here as well. That would be nice to have a little variety of opinions. But yeah, listen, who doesn't like talking a little bit of football when the season's getting kicked off? And anytime you guys have something y'all want us to talk about, something you guys want to jump on here and bat around with us, just post it to the Facebook group, reach out to Mason or myself, and we will do so. Listen, we just really enjoy watching footy and talking about it, and having another place to do that, especially during these crazy COVID times when we're all
Right.
basically stuck at the house. I think there was one place that's showing games today. Let's give them a shout out. It was somebody mentioned it in the Facebook group. Where is that place, Mason? I don't remember
Jens
off the
had
top of my
mentioned
head.
it. Let me see if I can find that real
Yeah,
quick.
yeah. Look that up real quick. There's a local bar, pub, sports bar. I want to say it's in maybe Maumelle or somewhere.
I believe
Um,
so.
that
Fassler is a good spot to watch games,
Yes,
but
Hassler Hall in Little Rock's where we've
it
gone in the
leans towards
past.
Spurs.
Yeah,
But they do show other games. They got great food, great
yeah.
beers. We've seen. I actually met my girlfriend at an Arsenal watch party at Homer's. They don't always open up for the early games, but Arsenal group had a pretty good relationship with them, and we would just call them and let them know, hey, game on at this time, and they'd have a bartender out there for us. So
Well,
they're very accommodating. That's Homer's West over on Rodney Parham, by the way. And
yeah,
then
and that's
okay,
kind of the thing. We have a handful of these fan groups. I do the United one. There's a handful of us that run all these fan pages, and you know, the tough thing is most of these games come on early in the morning. Most sports bars aren't open early in the morning, and so we've reached out to folks at Fassler Hall in years past. Dugan's, the one you just mentioned. Listen, anybody who manages a bar, is willing to
yeah,
open and have games there. We'd love to come, but we are still dealing with COVID. Cases are still going up
exactly.
here.
So we can't
There's
really have
restrictions.
huge
Yeah,
watch
we would
parties
love
like
to have a watch party and get
women.
everybody together. We also don't want to, be the cause of a super spreader event and end up on the news for
Yes.
something.
And,
So,
and and by the way, that other one in Maumelle is called Overtime Lounge. It is next to Beef O'Brady's.
Overtime Lounge by Beef O'Brady's. So, yeah, anybody, I think there's a few guys that may be there right now watching this Liverpool Leeds game. So, anytime we can get together and watch games, hopefully once, this COVID quarantine stuff gets a little less crazy, I'll kind of show you guys my setup for watching games. Let me turn off my virtual background. Some of you guys who are married and can't do this are about to get real jealous. Um, because as a single dad, I have nobody to tell me no. So when me and my son wanted some more TVs, we got some more TVs. So actually, I don't even have two of them turned on right now, but I have 6 TVs set up in here. A lot of times, I'll have multiple games going on and a watch along from YouTube for one of the games. So listen, as soon as we can actually get together and watch games, I'm more than happy to have some people come over here and watch if they want to too.
Heck yeah.
It We all enjoy watching the beautiful game, and it's always fun to watch it when you have a crowd. Celebrate with your friends, give some banter to your rivals. It always makes things a little more fun. So with that, I think we'll go ahead and wrap it up. Any final thoughts you want to share, Mason, on any predictions or anything?
No. I think we nailed it first episode. Hopefully some people give it a listen, and any feedback, like Daniel said earlier, anything you guys want us to talk about, any questions, we'll be happy to discuss them.
Absolutely. Yeah, and we plan on, probably putting some polls on the Facebook page and stuff like that where you guys can kind of let us know what you want to see, or, if you're interested in jumping on and joining us for an episode, we can do that as well. Obviously, we just kind of did this with a Zoom call. We're recording it. We're going to convert it to audio and try and do the podcast part of it. I know we can go ahead and post this as a YouTube video and post it to the Facebook page. And listen, if this is something you guys want to do and want to watch, and we get some interest in it, we'll get some proper podcasting equipment and do it that way as well. So just really appreciate you guys joining the Facebook page. It's been a lot of good banter, and the season's just started today, so it's always fun to have that. And we appreciate you guys joining us for a listen, and look forward to seeing you for a week 1 recap in a couple days.
All righty, sounds good, Daniel. I appreciate it,
All
buddy.
righty, sir. Adios. Have a good one.
Hey, likewise.